Welcome to the deep dive. We're the place that takes all that information you send our way, sorts through it, and hopefully gives you some clear insights for navigating, well, everything out there.
Yeah, the modern world.
Exactly. And today, oh boy, we're diving into something you just can't avoid. Pseudoscience. It's everywhere, seductive, pervasive, and sometimes, honestly, pretty dangerous.
It really is. And we've gathered quite a bit of source material on this, looking at the sophisticated ways that really reasonable, smart people can get pulled into beliefs that just aren't backed up.
Right.
And our mission here, just to be clear for this deep dive, isn't about knocking any specific belief someone holds. It's more about understanding that invisible net, as our sources call it.
I like that term.
Yeah, it kind of captures how it works. We want to help equip you, the listener, with a better mental toolkit, to sort of navigate this information jungle that just keeps growing.
That invisible net idea is so important, I think, because it's not always some crazy, obvious lie that pulls you in.
No, it starts subtly.
Yeah, maybe it's just an online ad promising something amazing, effortless. Looks a bit iffy, maybe. Or maybe it's, a friend, someone you trust, sharing something really confidently on social media.
Like this essential oil blend cures anxiety instantly.
Exactly. And you have that flicker of hope. Or maybe just, what if that easy answer is true? That's the hook. And our source material points out something crucial. Our brains are kind of wired to prefer these simple, comforting stories over the messy, complicated facts. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Evolutionary feature.
Right. And apparently we're living in a golden age where that feature is being exploited like never before.
And what makes it tricky is how slick the packaging has become. It looks so professional sometimes.
Oh, really?
The source material has this great little story from the author. He's just looking for water filters for a friend. Simple enough, right?
It's harmless.
Yes, starts comparing basic carbon filters.
Yeah.
But then, boom, he slides down this rabbit hole. Suddenly he's on these incredibly polished websites claiming that, pH-balanced alkaline water can not only reverse aging and protect you from radiation,
Yeah.
but also, realign your chakras.
Okay, that escalated quickly.
Right. And the jump from filters chlorine to realign chakras was often buried under these vague citations or just stock photos of people looking serious in lab coats. That first little bit of, maybe, that's all it takes.
So to help us untangle all this, we've structured this deep dive around 5 main threads. Think of it as our roadmap.
Okay.
First up, we'll look at the power of storytelling, why one good story beats a mountain of data in our minds.
The anecdote effect. Yeah.
Second, we'll get into cognitive biases, those little glitches in our thinking like Dunning-Kruger and confirmation bias.
The brain's hidden traps.
Third, the language games, how pseudoscience borrows scientific words to sound legit when it's, well, empty.
The masquerade.
Fourth, the social side, how things go viral, echo chambers, algorithms, all that.
The amplifier effect.
And finally, crucially, the path forward. What can you actually do? Practical tools, learning to value, healthy doubt.
Building that mental toolkit we mentioned.
By the end of this, hopefully, you'll be way better at spotting those linguistic red flags, quantum healing, ancient secret, all that jazz.
Right.
And maybe more importantly, understand why really smart people sometimes fall for this stuff. It's about building that intellectual self-defense.
Exactly. It's not about intelligence. It's about recognizing the mechanisms.
Okay, let's start with thread 1, that irresistible allure. The psychological, the cognitive hooks. Why are we so susceptible? We have to start with the brain itself. Our source calls it a narrative-producing machine. Why is that so key?
Well, it goes way back. Evolutionarily speaking, our ancestors, they survived by turning observations into quick stories, like rustling grass equals predator equals run.
Cause and effect. Simple. Fast.
Exactly. That pattern detection, making quick connections, it literally saved lives. But today, that same wiring's still there, firing away. Only now, instead of scanning for tigers, it's trying to find simple patterns and meaning in this, overwhelming flood of information we live in.
And the contrast with how actual science works is stark, isn't it?
Oh, completely. Real science is. Well, it's humble, usually. It offers nuances, probabilities. It talks about error bars and caveats.
More research needed.
Always. Ask a scientist something complex, and the answer is usually, well, depends, or we think, based on the current evidence. It's cautious.
But pseudoscience...
Pseudoscience throws caution to the wind. It just gives you certainty, looks you right in the eye, metaphorically speaking, and says, relax, I've got the answer. The simple one they're hiding from you. And that feeling of certainty. It's like a balm. It's immediately comforting. Psychologically, it's very potent.
That immediate comfort, that clarity. That must be why something like homeopathy sticks around, despite all the evidence against it.
Precisely. Homeopathy's core idea, like cures like, it's sticky. It's elegant in its simplicity, easy to grasp. It creates this neat little story about illness and cure.
A tidy narrative.
Yeah, you don't need biochemistry. You just need the story. And it doesn't matter that, trial after trial shows it's no better than placebo, or that the dilutions mean there's literally zero active molecules left.
Right, mathematically zero.
Zero. But the story, the emotional payoff of that simple narrative,
Yeah.
it outweighs the messy details of chemistry for a lot of people.
And we really crave that simplicity, don't we? Especially when we're stressed, anxious about health or money or whatever. This links to ambiguity aversion, right?
That's our built-in dislike for just sitting with uncertainty. And
Yeah.
we're kind of wired to grab onto a definite answer, even if it might be wrong, rather than stay lost in confusing, contradictory possibilities.
As being frozen.
Exactly. The source gives this really relatable example of a mother, Lena, trying to decide about vaccines during a measles outbreak. She's getting slammed with conflicting stuff online. Total paralysis.
I can imagine.
And right into that anxiety steps the pseudoscientific crowd with their super confident, polished messages. Her brain, just desperate for relief from that indecision, latches on to the certainty they're offering, even if it's false.
It's not just about easing anxiety, though. There's something else powerful it offers.
Yeah.
The illusion of control.
Oh, that is huge. Think about the really big problems: climate change, economic inequality, complex diseases. They feel enormous, overwhelming. Like, what can I actually do?
Right, you feel powerless.
Pseudoscience steps right into that gap. It offers you a feeling of agency. It tells you that you can fight back against these big, scary, often vaguely defined threats. Maybe it's toxins or negative energy or 5G radiation, by doing something small, personal, affordable, and immediate, like buying a specific crystal or drinking a special tea or putting, I don't know, onions in your socks.
Okay, maybe not the onions.
Well, you see some weird stuff. But the point is, you suddenly feel like you're doing something. You've gone from being a passive victim to an active fighter. Even if the enemy you're fighting is, imaginary, it's intoxicating.
Okay, so the brain is primed for stories, for certainty, for control. Now, how do our own built-in thinking flaws, our cognitive biases, become the weak spots? Let's talk about those cognitive illusions. We have to start with the big one, confirmation bias.
Yeah, that's the king, really, because it fuels itself. It's that tendency we all have to notice, seek out, remember, and share information that confirms what we already believe.
And ignore the stuff that doesn't fit.
Or actively discount it, yeah. It makes us uncomfortable, cognitive dissonance. So pseudoscientific bubbles become these powerful echo chambers. Someone buys, say, a healing bracelet. They feel a bit better later, maybe placebo, maybe just a good night's sleep, maybe regression to the mean.
We'll get to that one.
Right. But they attribute it to the bracelet. They tell people, post about it online. Anyone challenging it feels like a personal attack or just wrong. The bias filters out the contradiction.
And then there's our pattern-seeking instinct, apophenia. We're wired to see connections, but sometimes we see them where they just aren't.
That's that evolutionary mismatch again. We evolved in environments where spotting a real pattern, like tracks meaning prey or smoke meaning fire, was crucial. Low data, high stakes. Now, we're drowning in data. You can find apparent correlations between almost anything if you look hard enough, like the number of pirates declining as global temperatures rise.
Okay, that's a classic.
Right. Or maybe it's a new cell tower going up and suddenly your neighbor feels tired. Yeah. The brain wants to connect those dots. Pseudoscience thrives on these coincidences, presenting them as proof of some hidden cause. It stops looking after the first apparent link.
And we absolutely have to talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. That idea that people with limited knowledge often overestimate how much they actually know. Seems like the internet was built for this.
Oh, it's tailor-made for it. Dunning-Kruger is fundamentally about a lack of metacognition. You don't know enough to know what you don't know.
Right.
To really grasp a complex field, you have to understand the vast landscape of things you haven't learned yet. But if you just do a few quick Google searches, you get this surface-level info.
You feel like you've got it.
Exactly. You hit this peak of confidence based on very little actual competence. because you haven't yet seen the true depth or complexity of the subject.
So the internet lets anyone publish, but it doesn't automatically grant expertise.
Not at all. And every search result, every YouTube video, it all looks the same on your screen. The carefully worded statement from the CDC looks visually identical to some shouting guru's slick video.
So confidence becomes the proxy for credibility.
Precisely. In that flattened information landscape, the loudest, most confident, simplest message often wins, regardless of the actual credentials or evidence behind it. People mistake that unwavering certainty for competence, and that gap is exploited big time.
And that very simplicity makes it persuasive, right? Which is cognitive fluency.
Yeah, cognitive fluency is just about how easy something is for our brain to process. Simple ideas, things we hear repeated often, especially from people we trust or identify with, they just slide right in. They feel true because they don't require much mental effort.
No friction.
Right. Compare that to reading an actual scientific paper with its careful methodology section, its caveats, its statistical jargon. It's hard work. The brain prefers the smooth path. The simple, repeated pseudoscience claim is smooth. The complex, cautious truth is bumpy.
And it's important to remember this isn't just happening inside one person's head. Believing the stuff is often deeply social.
Oh, absolutely critical. These pseudoscientific communities, they offer real social benefits. A sense of identity, belonging, shared purpose. Even a special insider language, terms only the group uses.
Like a secret club.
Kind of. And that social glue is powerful. To question the group's core beliefs isn't just an intellectual exercise. It risks social isolation, being cast out of the tribe. That need to belong can easily override the need to be factually correct for many people.
It really sounds like the core product being sold isn't the supplement or the gadget, it's the narrative.
Spot on. Strip it all down, and pseudoscience often follows classic story structure. You've got a villain, maybe it's Big Pharma, or the government, or toxins.
Yeah.
You've got a victim, the person suffering, a wise guide or mentor, the guru, the influencer, and a secret, heroic solution.
Which usually involves buying their book or product.
Almost always. And that's a compelling story that real science, with its boring complexities and tentative findings, just can't compete with on an emotional level.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2. We know why we're drawn in psychologically. Now, how is it packaged? This is the art of the masquerade. Language, jargon, authority, or as the source calls it, science exploitation.
Yeah, science exploitation, it's deliberate. It's about borrowing the appearance, the grammar, the vocabulary of real science to give credibility to ideas that have none. You hear phrases like detoxifies at the cellular level.
Sounds fancy.
Or optimizes quantum energy pathways. They're designed to sound profound, technical, clinical.
Okay, let's take that. Optimizes quantum energy pathways. What does that actually mean scientifically?
It means absolutely nothing, and that's the whole point. It's empty jargon dressed up as deep science.
Like putting a lab coat on a ghost.
Exactly. Detox is another great one. In the ad context, toxin usually means, well, whatever the person selling the detox wants it to mean. It's undefined. Cellular level, I mean, all life happens at the cellular level, so it adds no specific information. But the number one offender's got to be quantum.
Why is quantum such a huge red flag in, say, the wellness world?
Because it's a complete misuse of the term. Quantum physics describes the bizarre, probabilistic world of subatomic particles. Wave-particle duality, entanglement, stuff like that.
Tiny, tiny things.
Incredibly tiny. It is zero known, plausible connection to how the human body works on a biological or therapeutic level. So when you hear quantum healing or quantum energy fields, the word quantum is just being used as a fancy synonym for mysterious or magical or unexplainably powerful.
It sounds smart, makes you feel maybe a bit dumb, so you just nod along.
That's the goal. It creates what psychologists call the illusion of explanatory depth. You think you understand because the words sound technical, but there's no actual mechanism there.
So we should probably keep a running list of these warning phrases. What else screams pseudoscience?
Okay, big red flag. When you hear scientifically proven, immediately followed by ancient secret, those two things are usually contradictory in this context.
Good point.
And they may be topped off with something super technical sounding but vague, like DNA activation or bioresonance balancing. Real science isn't secret, and its validity doesn't come from being ancient. It comes from being testable, transparent, and repeatable.
It's not just words, though. They use numbers, too, right? Precision bias.
Oh, yeah. Numbers give this illusion of rigor. A claim like 88.7% effective sounds incredibly precise, very scientific.
Because at the decimal point.
Exactly. Even if that number comes from like an unpublished survey of 15 people who bought the product, or an in-house study they won't release, or think about wrinkle creams promising, say, a 42% reduction in fine lines.
Okay.
That might be based on 10 people looking in the mirror and guessing if they look better after a week. The number itself lends weight, even if the methodology behind it is flimsy or non-existent. The more precise the number, the harder you should ask. Where's the published peer-reviewed study?
So we have the words, the numbers,
Mhm.
and then there's the visual element, the staging, the borrowed props.
The aesthetics are critical for building trust. It's all about signaling authority. The classic white lab coat, maybe some footage with beeping machines that look like they're from an ER.
The subliminal messages.
Totally. Using Latin-sounding jargon, even fancy logos and official-sounding names. You'll see products certified by the, I don't know, International Council for Holistic Wellness Advancement.
Which turns out to be.
A website run by the same guy selling the product from his garage. They mimic the look and feel of legitimate accrediting bodies to create this halo of trustworthiness.
So how does real science talk in contrast? What are the signs of genuine scientific communication?
Real science usually speaks with a degree of humility. It acknowledges uncertainty. It uses those caveats we mentioned. Further research is needed. Within these limitations, correlation doesn't equal causation.
It shows its work.
Exactly. Methodological transparency is key. Here's our hypothesis. Here's exactly how we tested it. Here are the raw results. Here's where we published it so others can try to replicate it or critique it. Pseudoscience often hides behind proprietary formulas or ancient wisdom, basically saying, trust us, you don't need to see how the sausage is made. If they won't show you the recipe, be very suspicious of the meal.
Okay, that takes us neatly into section 3. The engine of spread. We've got the psychological pull, the fancy packaging. Now, how does this stuff actually travel so fast and wide? It seems to start with the power of the personal story, the anecdote.
Yeah, this is the fundamental battle.
Yeah.
Anecdote versus data. Scientists rely on large studies, big sample sizes, to try and find a reliable pattern. The mass moment, as the source puts it, trying to smooth out individual weirdness.
But our brains.
Our brains are wired for the mirror moment, that single, vivid, relatable story from one person. We evolved listening to stories around the campfire, not reading statistical abstracts.
The source material mentions something about neuroscience here, embodied simulation.
That's right. When you hear a really compelling story, especially one with sensory details, emotions, parts of your brain light up as if you were experiencing something similar yourself. It feels more real, more true than just hearing a study of 10,000 people found.
So one good story just wipes out the spreadsheet in our minds.
Often, yes. That emotional connection makes the living proof feel incredibly powerful, even if just one data point, possibly an outlier.
And a lot of those success stories have hidden factors driving them, right? The source called them invisible partners. Placebo is one, obviously. But let's talk about regression to the mean.
Ah, yes. Regression to the mean. This is so often mistaken for a cure. It's almost comical if it weren't sometimes tragic. Basically, things fluctuate naturally. Your back pain, your mood, your golf score, it goes up and down.
Right. Good days and bad days.
Exactly. Now, when do people usually try a new treatment or remedy?
When things are really bad.
Precisely. When their symptoms are at their absolute peak, which is, by definition, an extreme point. Statistically, where is the next measurement likely to fall, even if they do absolutely nothing?
Closer to their average, less extreme.
Bingo. It's likely to regress back toward their personal average. So they try the weird supplement or the copper bracelet or the special diet when they feel worst, and then they naturally feel a bit better the next week.
And the bracelet gets the credit.
The bracelet gets the credit, even though it's probably just statistical fluctuation, or maybe they also started gentle exercise or finally got some sleep or the weather changed. Those get ignored. The new thing is hailed as the miracle cure, and that story gets shared.
Which leads us straight to the digital accelerator, social media. How does this stuff spread like wildfire online? Why is pseudoscience so well suited to algorithms?
Because algorithms aren't designed for truth. They're designed for engagement, keeping your eyeballs on the screen. And what drives engagement?
Strong emotions, outrage, surprise.
You got it. Fear, anger, shock, hope. Pseudoscience is often packaged as a dramatic revelation, the secret they don't want you to know. the cover-up exposed, the miracle cure hidden by big pharma. That stuff is emotional dynamite. It gets clicks, shares, comments.
And then the algorithm sees you clicked on that, so it feeds you more of the same, building those echo chambers.
Exactly. You start clicking on anti-vax content, suddenly your entire feed is anti-vax content. It filters out opposing views, creating this illusion that everyone thinks this way. It feels like a consensus, even if it's a tiny self-reinforcing bubble.
It insulates you from reality.
Totally. And then you have darker stuff like astroturfing fake accounts, bots, paid trolls, all working to make a fringe idea or a product look like it has genuine grassroots support.
Wow. Manufacturing consensus.
Yeah. It's manipulation on a large scale.
And the speed of it all. That speed versus accuracy problem.
It's brutal. Sharing takes half a second. Clicking like is instant. Verifying a claim, checking sources, understanding the science. That takes time, effort, critical thinking. Truth often just gets left in the dust because the juicy falsehood is already halfway around the world before truth gets its boots on. People share first, think later, if at all.
And all this sharing, all this belief, it fuels a massive industry, doesn't it? Big business, big promises, the profit motive.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking a multi-trillion-dollar global wellness industry. Much of it legitimate, of course, but a huge chunk runs on pseudoscientific claims. They're selling hope, fear, aspiration, not just pills or powders.
Let's break down a typical product. Say, one of those detox teas, let's call it Pure Life Cleanse. How does it work, marketing-wise?
Okay, standard playbook. First, create or amplify a vague, ill-defined problem. You're full of hidden toxins, or your gut health is out of balance. No specifics, just a general sense of unease.
Make people feel slightly unwell or worried.
Step 2. Introduce your product using fancy-sounding, but often meaningless botanical buzzwords. Contains our proprietary phytonutrient matrix, or harnesses the power of ancient adaptogens.
Sounds impressive.
Step 3. Rely almost entirely on glowing testimonials. Sarah felt amazing after just 1 week. Instead of actual clinical evidence, if they mention studies, they're usually in-house and conveniently proprietary, meaning secret.
So no real proof, and this often sails right past regulators, especially in the U.S.
Yeah, this is where we have to talk about DSHEA, the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994. It's fundamental to understanding the U.S. market.
What did that act do?
Essentially, it created a separate category for dietary supplements. Unlike drugs, supplements do not have to be proven safe or effective before they go on the market. The FDA can only step in later if they can prove a product is unsafe or making illegal claims.
That sounds like a huge loophole.
It is, and the key is the language used on the label. Manufacturers can make what are called structure-function claims, meaning they can say their product supports immune health, or promotes relaxation, or boosts energy levels. Vague, wellnessy language. What they cannot do is make a specific disease claim, like saying it cures cancer or treats diabetes.
So they walk a very fine line with the wording.
A very, very fine line. Supports healthy blood sugar levels? Probably okay. Lowers blood sugar? Getting risky. Reverses diabetes? Definitely illegal. This semantic game allows a flood of products onto shelves with minimal upfront proof, often making implied promises they can't legally state outright. It creates an uneven playing field where untested supplements can compete with rigorously tested medicines.
And then you throw celebrities into the mix, the halo effect.
Right. Celebrity trust transfer. We see someone famous, attractive, successful, maybe an athlete, an actor endorsing a product.
And we subconsciously think, well, they're successful, they must know what they're talking about.
Exactly. Their credibility or charisma in one area spills over into this unrelated area, like health advice. An Olympic athlete endorsing homeopathy doesn't make homeopathy work, but people connect their discipline and success with the product.
The source used Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop as a prime example.
Goop is really a masterclass in this. It leverages that aspirational lifestyle brand, that feeling of parasocial connection with the founder, to sell products that are often completely unproven, sometimes demonstrably nonsensical, like J-eggs for vaginal health, or stickers claiming to use NASA frequency tech.
They're selling the lifestyle, the aspiration wrapped around the product.
Precisely. Trust is transferred from the celebrity persona to the dubious product.
Okay, this is getting serious. We need to move into section 4. Because this isn't just about wasted money or feeling silly. The stakes can be incredibly high. This is danger and the war on expertise. Where's that line between a harmless fad and something genuinely dangerous?
The line gets crossed when the belief directly leads someone to abandon or delay evidence-based care, when wishful thinking overrides biology, and the results can be devastating.
The sources mentioned the Disneyland measles outbreak in 2014.
Yeah, that was a stark wake-up call. Measles was basically eliminated in the U.S. thanks to vaccines. But then you had rising vaccine hesitancy, often fueled by debunked celebrity claims and online misinformation, especially in some affluent communities. Vaccination rates dipped just below that crucial herd immunity level.
And boom.
Boom. Disneyland, a place packed with kids from all over, becomes ground zero. Almost 200 preventable cases spread across multiple states. Personal beliefs had very real, very public health consequences for everyone.
And it goes beyond infectious diseases. The consequences can be truly mortal, especially with things like cancer.
This is the hardest part. You see these heartbreaking stories about alternative cancer cures, things like laetrile from apricot pits, which is basically cyanide.
Cyanide?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yes, leading to actual poisoning. Or Gerson therapy, intense juicing, coffee enemas. Zero evidence it treats cancer, and it can cause serious electrolyte imbalances. Perhaps the most famous, tragic example was Steve Jobs.
Right. He had a very treatable form of pancreatic cancer initially.
A neuroendocrine tumor, yes. Very slow-growing, highly treatable with surgery early on. But he chose to delay that surgery for months, trying acupuncture, special diets, juice fasts, consulting psychics. By the time he finally opted for conventional medicine, the cancer had spread. It was too late.
That's just tragic. Delaying effective treatment based on pseudoscience.
And we saw this on a massive scale recently with the COVID-19 infodemic.
Oh, yeah. That was a whirlwind.
Total information chaos. Yeah, the frenzy over hydroxychloroquine, people promoting bleach cures, that awful case of the man dying after taking fish tank cleaner because it had chloroquine in it.
Unbelievable.
And the impact wasn't just anecdotal. One major study estimated that misinformation, particularly around vaccines and masks, was linked to tens of thousands of preventable deaths in the U.S. alone in the first year or so. Misinformation kills.
And all these terrible outcomes seem to feed into this broader trend. Science under siege, the erosion of trust. How did we get from experts like Jonas Salk being national heroes in the 50s to today, where expert is almost a dirty word for some people, seen as elitist or even malicious?
It's complex, several factors at play. One big one is just the nature of science itself, clashing with our desire for simple certainty. Science corrects itself, that's its strength. But when advice changes based on new evidence, like mask guidance during COVID...
People jump on it.
Yeah.
See? They don't know what they're doing. They keep changing their story.
Exactly. That necessary process of revision gets misinterpreted as incompetence, or worse, deliberate deception. It feeds a narrative that experts are either clueless or hiding something.
And sometimes that doubt is actively manufactured, isn't it?
Oh, for sure, the business of doubt. There are well-documented campaigns, often funded by industries with vested interests, the tobacco industry playbook, the fossil fuel lobby, and climate change. Their goal isn't necessarily to disprove the science. It's often just to muddy the waters.
No uncertainty.
Sow uncertainty, create the impression of a huge scientific debate where maybe there isn't one, emphasize outlier studies. Just enough to make the public feel the science is unsettled. Because if the science is perceived as uncertain, it delays regulation and policy action. It's a strategy.
And then there's just the communication gap itself, the accent barrier.
Yeah. When scientists speak carefully, using probabilities, talking about limitations, acknowledging complexity, they can sound hesitant, wishy-washy.
Especially compared to the loud certainty of the pseudoscientist.
Exactly. That caution sounds weak against confident pronouncements. Add in technical jargon, the perceived social distance. It can make experts seem like they're part of some exclusive club, hiding the real truth. This fuels the rise of the armchair researcher. The person who thinks a weekend on Google makes them equal to someone with decades of specialized training. They feel empowered by access to information, but often lack the skills to critically evaluate it.
Okay, this has been pretty heavy looking at the scope and the dangers, but the goal here is empowerment. We need to shift to Section 5, the path out. What are the tools? How do we cultivate vigilance and, importantly, productive doubt? Let's start with defining the critical mindset.
Right. And critical thinking isn't about being negative or cynical. It's not about being emotionless. It's really about trained curiosity. The source breaks it down into 3 key parts. First, intellectual humility. The genuine willingness to accept, I might be wrong. Second, methodological skepticism. Asking, how do we know this? What's the evidence? How's it gathered? And third, constructive persistence. The drive to dig deeper, to not just accept the first easy answer that comes along.
So it's like Being a polite but persistent investigator of claims.
That's a great way to put it. Treat every extraordinary claim like, someone showing up unexpectedly at your door. You might be friendly, but you want to know who they are, why they're there, and check their credentials before you let them in.
I like that. And to make that practical day-to-day, we have the question compass. A quick 4-step check for any claim you encounter. Let's try it. Say you see a headline. New study shows drinking celery juice cures insomnia.
Okay, perfect example. Step 1. What is the claim precisely? Strip away the fluff. Claim. Celery juice consumption directly resolves the physiological condition of insomnia.
Okay. Step 2. What evidence supports it?
Now we demand proof. Is there a link to a published, peer-reviewed, randomized controlled trial? Or is it just linking to a blog post with testimonials? Or maybe the study was funded by a celery juice company. If it's just anecdotes or biased research, red flag. Evidence quality is key. Anecdotes suggest hypotheses. They don't confirm them.
Got it. Step 3. Who says so and why? Source and motive.
Crucial. Is the source an independent sleep researcher? Or is it a wellness influencer selling a $300 juicer? If there's a direct financial incentive tied to the claim, your skepticism level should skyrocket. Follow the money.
Makes sense. And the final, maybe toughest question. What would it take to change my mind? The falsifiability test.
This is the gut check for your own biases. Can you imagine evidence that would make you abandon the belief? If, say, 5 large, well-designed studies showed celery juice had 0 effect on sleep beyond placebo, and you accept that? Or would you cling to the belief anyway? If you can't even imagine being proven wrong, you're not reasoning anymore, you're just defending dogma. A critical mind has to be open to changing based on evidence.
This whole approach seems to hinge on reclaiming doubt. Doubt gets such a bad rap, sounds negative. But here, it's framed as a hero.
An unsung hero, absolutely. Because constructive, systematic doubt isn't cynicism. It's the essential pause button. It stops us from jumping to conclusions. It's literally the engine of all scientific progress.
How so?
Think about the breakthroughs. Edward Jenner doubted smallpox was inevitable, tested his cowpox observation, gave us vaccines. Barry Marshall doubted ulcers were just stress, swallowed bacteria, proved the infection link, won a Nobel Prize. Galileo doubted the Earth was the center of everything. Doubt, applied systematically, is how we chip away at falsehoods and get closer to reality.
It's humility in action.
Exactly. It's saying, what I think I know might be wrong, let's test it. Even on a small scale, like the source's example of testing if playing Mozart makes your tomatoes grow bigger.
Right, the home experiment.
Yeah. You set it up properly. Control group, silent tomatoes, experimental group, Mozart tomatoes, same soil, light, water. You'd measure the yield objectively. You accept the results, even if they show Mozart makes no difference. That methodical process, that willingness to let the data speak, that's the scientific method in miniature. It replaces rigid belief with flexible, testable hypotheses.
Okay, but now for the really tricky part. The art of conversation. How do you talk to people you care about, family, friends who've bought into pseudoscience, maybe deeply, especially when it's tied up in their identity or fears? How do you engage without starting a war?
This is delicate. The number 1 rule, empathy first. Try to understand why they hold the belief. Is it fear, hope, a need for control, a sense of community? It's usually not about a lack of intelligence. And absolutely avoid the data dump. Just overwhelming them with facts and studies will make them shut down immediately.
Triggers the defenses.
Instantly. It feels like an attack. So instead of direct contradiction, you use the Socratic thread.
Meaning you ask questions?
Gentle, open-ended questions that encourage them to reflect, rather than forcing them to defend. Instead of, that crystal doesn't do anything. Maybe try. That's interesting. What was that convinced you the crystal works? Or what have you noticed since you started using it? Or I know you've looked into this a lot. What was the most compelling evidence you found?
You're gently probing their reasoning, not attacking the conclusion directly.
Leading them to examine it themselves?
Hopefully. And always, always provide a face-saving out. Never make them feel stupid or cornered. Validate their underlying intention, even if you disagree with the method.
How would that sound?
Something like, look, I know you're doing this because you really want the best health for yourself or your kids, and that's what I want too. We share that goal. Since we both want the best outcome, maybe we could look together at what the mainstream medical consensus says about this. It frames it as a shared quest, not a battle. It gives them room to shift their position without admitting defeat.
And patience. Lots of patience. Oh, infinite patience. Changing deeply held beliefs is slow. It rarely happens in one conversation. Celebrate tiny victories. Maybe they just agree to read an article from a reliable source, or they pause before ordering that next batch of miracle supplements. That's progress.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here. From why we get pulled in to how it's packaged, the dangers, and now, finally, a toolkit for thinking critically and engaging constructively.
Yeah, it's been a real deep dive. And I think the final takeaway, the synthesis, is that maybe the deepest psychological comfort doesn't come from finding easy, certain answers. Maybe it comes from learning to be okay with complexity, with nuance, learning to align ourselves with reality, even when it's messy.
Moving from needing certainty to loving the process of finding things out.
Exactly. There's that great quote from the physicist James Clerk Maxwell: thoroughly conscious ignorance is the prelude to every real advance in science. Being aware of what you don't know is the starting point for learning.
So the final thought really is the actual universe, the one we can study with science, with its incredible biology, its physics, its chemistry. It's honestly far more amazing, far more wondrous than any fabricated story or quick fix promise.
Absolutely. Reclaiming reality means discovering this durable, intricate, fascinating world that no pseudoscience can ever truly match. Maybe the final encouragement is just this: value the questions as much as you crave the answers. Stay curious.
To get more details about Jay the Pseudoscience Trap, how we got here, and how to get out, click the below link to get the book. Subscribe us to get more content like this.